I went to have a chest X-ray and the spot already just started to form. They're like, well, if I'm gonna die anyway. So let me die like with a cigarette in my hand.
My name is Charles. I'm your host for Safer Nicotine Superheroes. Today's Safer Nicotine Superhero is Asa Saligupta of ECST, which stands for Ends Cigarette Smoking Thailand. Asa,
thank you.
Welcome. Are you ready for your 5 questions?
Yes, I am.
All right, here we go. Question number 1. Asa, have you lost a loved one to smoking?
Fortunately, the answer is no. Although most of elders in my family had smoked at one time or another. My dad quit. He's a good guy. He's a strong-willed guy. So he's the only one who can quit cold turkey. My mom quit like sometime much later. My grandfather, my grandmother also, they can quit cold turkey. So luckily and fortunately, not loved ones, no.
Asa, in my survey of members of our Safer Nicotine family, the community of people that we work with and you work with, about 75% of us have lost a loved one to smoking, and that includes me. My father smoked 2 packs a day and died of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease about 10 years ago. So I am delighted that your family has not suffered as much as most of us have. All right, here we go. Are you ready for your next question?
Yes, I am.
Question number 2. How do you feel about big tobacco?
Really tough questions. And like I said, fortunately, I haven't lost any loved one, including myself, although, of course, there are acquaintances or some friends of friends, that lost their lives because of they smoke tobacco cigarettes. Apart from their latest intention that they said, they are trying to turn towards safer nicotine products, which, okay, for that, I think, I don't know, I still haven't seen a real effort from them yet. So, from what, at our age, we know how big tobaccos had done a lot of advertising campaigns to fool us. Don't get me wrong, I didn't get hooked on cigarette because of advertising, but more or less because of peer pressure, number one, and because at that time, when we were young, 40, 50 years ago, all the cool people smoked. So, of course, we were young and we want to be grown up. And one thing that we can show off that we are grown up is smoking cigarettes. And that's probably also in the propaganda of the big tobacco. So, I don't know, they said they are working towards safer nicotine products, but I haven't seen real effort. We asked them about why not? You have the fame, you have the everything, you have the research and development. Why not quit and quit making regular cigarettes and turns towards vaping items? And they said no, they have their reputations at stake. They have to be really careful. And I said, you're not trying your best. So that's my point of view. I'm not really happy with them, but one way I look at them as, okay, they are a company, they have to survive, but there are ways. They have said it that they want to go to safer nicotine products. Why not put more effort into it?
Thank you, Asa. Again, our surveys of this community, our advocacy community for safer nicotine, it shows about 3 out of 4 of us take a very dim view of the tobacco industry, big tobacco, which we distinguish from the vaping industry and other safer nicotine industries. In general, my reflection is that if you think the enemy is nicotine, and if you think the enemy is the industry, then you will take a very dim view of safer nicotine alternatives like vaping, snus, nicotine pouches, and so on. And if you think the enemy is preventable disease from smoking and death from smoking, then you tend to have a little bit different view. All right. Thank you, Asa. Are you ready for your next question?
Yes, I am.
Question number 3. Tell us about your smoker's journey.
I smoked. Actually, my first cigarette was probably I was 9 or 10 years old. But that was my first cigarette from my grandmother. You know, she just smoked and she just put it on an ashtray without putting it out. So I said like, interesting. And I tried and I choked and I didn't like it. But when I was like 13 or 14, started, we become teenager. And so some of the friends tried and kind of like get hooked into smoking cigarettes. And it's one of the cool things. And I bought my first 2 packs and a lighter probably when I was 15-ish in England. I feels like, hey, I'm grown up now, I'm an adult. I live by myself. I had no parents, no mom, no dad. And the first thing in England, in London, that I paid money is go out to it's like a food truck, but it's a cigarette truck, and just go out 2 packs of cigarette, different brand, and try out. And from then on, for almost 40 years, I smoked and I tried to quit, and my health was just getting worse and worse. Finally, I couldn't. I tried everywhere. I went to the clinic, the quit smoking clinic, and I've tried patches, gums, spray. Anything I could get my hand on. Quit cold turkey, I have done it successfully, probably about 100 times. The worst is this one evening I said, I'm quitting, throwing my cigarette away. Not my expensive lighters, but the cheap lighters, throw it away, and then put away all my lighters. And in the morning, I went out to a convenience store and buy another pack of cigarette, and 2 days, and then a whole carton. And the best was about 2 months. And I was, the working environment pulled me back into smoking again. And about 10 years ago, I found a friend of mine told me about this innovative items called electronic cigarette. I said, yeah, I've tried. He said, no, try this. And he suggested a way, say every time you want to smoke a cigarette, pick this up instead. Every time you want a cigarette, and if you say you're not satisfied, then you can smoke. But I found that 2 days, I haven't touched even a single cigarette. And within a week, I couldn't even go back to smoking. So that's my tobacco journey so far. And since that day, almost 10 years ago, I can't even stand the smell of cigarette. People smoking and things like that.
That's a good story. And everyone in our community, we always say congratulations.
Thank you.
To people who have quit smoking. And we don't care how people quit smoking.
True.
It could be cold turkey. In fact, most people quit cold turkey. But many people can't. And every smoker is different. And I think that they need all options to quit. And there are medications that can reduce craving. There are nicotine patches, nicotine gum. Asa, you tried many of those and they didn't work for you.
Yeah.
So the more controversial option worked for you. Glad you quit smoking.
Thank you.
10 years ago. And how is your health now?
Much better. before I quit smoking, one of the final straw, so to speak, was that I went to have a chest X-ray, and the spot already just started to form, and the doctor, who's the director of the hospital, he's a good friend of mine, a little bit older than I am, but he just like, hey, Mr. Asa, you need to do something about your smoking habit. It's good that you quit drinking, and but I couldn't even. I say like, so what? It's some of the very few things that are bad things. I knew it was bad, but I said, it's probably the only bad, or only you can call it a sin. The only bad things that I do to myself, and so I said like, well, if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die anyway. So let me die like with a cigarette in my hand. That's the way I was thinking back then. But like I did try to quit, like I said, and even after that, but it just like something or something or another just pulled me back into like smoking and more. Actually, like it was like from 1 pack a day to 30 cigarettes a day to sometimes almost 2 pack a day, depends on, if I work, I need to, the stress level, so to speak. And even then, but like to answer your question, 3 years ago on the World No Smoking Day, right before World No Smoking Day, I decided to go back to have my chest X-ray again, and with the same doctor, of course, and he was surprised. He said like, wow, you know what? Your lung is healthier than your age. The age of your lung is healthier. And all the spots that we saw like probably 10 years ago, it was all gone. And, like you have to also blow to test the capacity of your lung. He said like, you're like a young people. He was amazed, and he asked me. So I said, and he's like, did you quit smoking? I said, yeah, finally. He said, yeah, good for you. How did you do it? I said like, I use electronic cigarette. He said, yeah, that's good for you. It's good. So, my health is now much better. Much better. I don't know. I might be dead already if I still smoke.
In how you can walk up a stairway or exercise? Do you notice it in for example, the number of lung infections that you get every year? Did that change?
Oh yeah, my office, when I was the professor at one of the probably the most prestigious university in Thailand. And my office was on 4th floor. There's no escalator, no elevator. You have to walk. When I was smoking, I got there in the morning. And sometimes even for lunchtime, I would just like ask the staff to bring me some lunch. And I will leave the office in the afternoon when the hour, everything is done. But after I quit smoking and turned to vaping, I found myself like, yeah, I can, why not? I can walk the flight, like 4 stories. First, when I smoke, I have to stop a second story and to look around. Was panting, like look around, nobody saw me. Okay, I start panting, has to stop. Now I can walk like straight up, and came down for lunch. And a few months, I even came down for break. I mean, like, and I also I don't run. I have written a book on exercise, and best exercise is to walk. Because run can damage your leg and your tendon, a lot of things. So I walk a lot, and the distance I can walk without getting tired, and especially the chest pain, it's I don't know, 5-6 times than when I smoke. And especially when you go out, like when we go and meet, or I travel to a lot of countries, I have to stop. Just pretending doing some kind of window shopping because I was tired. But now I walk 10 kilometers, going around with our groups of friends, and we can go like 2 kilometers. Charles, you probably remember we went like one time, we walked from our hotel to a restaurant like 2 kilometers. It was chilling, man. It was like, yeah, so it's easy to see,
That's great news. I'm glad you're healthier. Again, my surveys of our community show that 90% of us say that they are healthier after quitting smoking and switching to nicotine vapes or to other safer nicotine alternatives. About 6% said dramatically healthy. And most of the rest, just asking them, most of the rest said, well, I was healthy to begin with. A lot of smokers, especially young smokers, they're not sick yet. It takes decades to develop. Thank you, Asa. Are you ready for the next question?
Oh, yes, I am.
All right, here we go. Question number 4. What are safer nicotine conditions like in your country?
Ooh, Charles, this is very difficult. It's a tough question. It's very difficult to answer. First of all, for just to maybe some of the viewers or some of you haven't caught on, I'm from Thailand. So many of you have probably already have heard that there are stories of people getting arrested just for possessions of vape gears. So to answer your question, the tobacco harm reduction policy in Thailand is very flimsy. It's there, but it's very minuscule. It's like they want people. I mean, their way of thinking is quit or die, right? Okay, of course they have a lot of rules, laws, regulations coming out trying to ban. Like get rid. There's no more smoking zone, no more smoking room in the at the airport. More penalties for people got caught in smoking in a no smoking area. Harsher penalty for those who sells like illicit cigarettes, or if you sell cigarettes to minors and raise the age of smoking buyers and sellers to 20, and they are thinking of 21, they raise some tax. So it's the idea of quit or die.
Asa, how difficult is it to buy cigarettes in Thailand?
Very easy. It's everywhere, every convenience store. And we talk about age. Even young kids, like right now they are more strict, but young kids can go in and say, I'm buying cigarette for my dad, for my uncle, for my auntie, and the sellers would just sell it to them because why not? You are buying for your parents and things like that. While nobody knows that mostly is the kids buy for themselves.
So just to be clear, how difficult is it to buy a safer nicotine vape product, and what are the penalties exactly?
If you're talking about vaping, safer nicotine product, you can get like nicotine patches and gums from a pharmacy, of course, and then you can go to hospital or clinic and get those. Okay, it's medication. But if you want to talk about vaping, the laws in Thailand is you cannot import. It's illegal to import, to manufacture, and to distribute. There are 3 laws. Plus, laws on consumer protection stating that since vaping is also, since electronic cigarettes had been already classified as a type of smoking apparatus, quote unquote. And so if you vape in a no smoking zone, then you will find the fine is 5,000 baht. And but there's no law against possession or the act of vaping itself, of course, unless you do it in a no smoking zone. But in reality, you can, there's flea market, Facebook, Instagram, all the social medias. Here, Line is very big. You can also buy from those places, which the laws consider an open place. Like you buy from a Facebook, it's still like you're buying from an open place, like go to not to a department store, but a lot of flea market. Most of the flea markets, you can walk in and buy them it's a little bit more
So
expensive, but
that's like
you can. So it's not difficult.
so that's like an illicit or a bootleg market. Is that correct? And is it true that people really have been sent to prison for vaping?
It is. It is true. People had been detained. People had been fined, but they use the loopholes of the laws. You know, the corrupted officers use the loopholes of the laws to do that. I have never been arrested or even bothered. You know, I have lots of police officers saw me with vape gears, and yeah, they just say nothing. But you know, like if they look at some maybe younger people, younger generation or people, they said, you know, they can get bribe money from, then they'll come down and say, hey, you know, this is illegal. And most of these young people, they don't want to mess with police officers. So, you know, the corrupted officers will say like, well, give me 20,000 baht, you know, or $1,000, and we'll call it a day, you know, and we have to confiscate your items, your gears, and things like that. And there are cases that went to the court. Unfortunately, almost all of the cases, the police officers order the defendant to sign confession. So once the case is in court, the confession is there. So they have to pay a fine, and not a lot. And there are also a lot of many tourists coming in and got the same. And one of the worst cases is the French lady who got detained for like 6 days, 5 nights, I think, or 6 nights, 7 days in prison in Bangkok. Got arrested, and the reason she was in jail was because there's no paper, and they want to deport her, but there's no paper, so they were waiting for the paper from another province, and finally they just had to let her go. But you know, she had to spend like 6-7 days.
Maybe it's just me, Asa, but I think it's unwise to fine or imprison people for quitting smoking in the wrong way. But thank you for your answers on that. So, are you ready for the next and final question, Asa?
Oh, yes, I am.
Who is your favorite superhero?
Oh, Charles, really, this is the most difficult question. The reason being, since I was superhero crazed since when I was a little kid, and when I was young, I'll try to make it simple. When I was young, my favorite superhero is Tiger Mask. He's from Japan, right? He's a wrestler who wear mask and do good deeds for the money he won from wrestling. He helped the orphanage because he's an orphan, and he grew up from that orphanage. And there's a lot of story involved, but mainly it's because, you know, this is a guy who just like paid and listen and give. Especially he gave love to the kids, you know, make the kids like they belong to some kind of communities, and they have people care for them, and so that I was really crazy about that. And growing up, I have to split your question into 2 categories. Who I think I resemble as a superhero. I don't know if you can call him a superhero, but he's a character in an MCU, and that is the collector, because I like to collect. I mean, before I vape, I collect a lot of things. I have collect stereo system, watches, and finally it became my hobby, vaping, and I try to collect as many items as possible. But the person I really, really like, I'll give you a hint.
Thor.
I like Thor from the comic, though, from the Marvel comic, not from not as much from the MCU. Yeah, I know he's cool, you know, the way he speaks and what he's gone through, and he's got like so many variant, if I may say so. Like there's Throg, who's a frog, and I don't know, Beta Rebel, King Thor, Old Thor, and I mean so many varieties. And the way he speak, the way he act, the way he held himself. I mean, he's not the person without flaws. He's got a lot of flaws, but somehow he will try to amend what he did wrong, what is his flaw, and he's a very jovial, he was a very nice guy and always willing to help people. So he had been my hero since the 70s, 80s, ever since. I mean, I still like him. So Thor is my favorite hero.
So there we have it. Thank you, Asa. Thank you so much. I've known you for 3 years. You're a wonderful man, and you're a great superhero. Hope Poon Krap. And the Safer Nicotine family knows your superpowers for sure, and we applaud them and your efforts to defeat villains in Thailand and around the world. Thank you very much. The Safer Nicotine family needs your support. Give this video a like, subscribe, share it with your friends on Twitter, Facebook, and other social media to show the algorithms that you appreciate the content. We look forward to seeing you at our next Safer Nicotine Superhero interview.